I'm Chelene Martin, and this is Continuing the Conversation, where we bring you authentic AI insights to help you work better, lead smarter, and build a healthier relationship with the wild, fast-moving world of AI. Today's episode is all about something that's becoming weirdly trendy in the AI world, giving fancy new names to things we've actually been doing for decades. Andrej Karpathy recently coined the term vibe coding, describing this magical new way of building software by just talking to AI and letting it do the work. Sounds revolutionary, right? But my co-host Rob is raising a yellow flag, and he's got a point. Rob's here to unpack this whole great rebranding happening across the AI space, and I'll be jumping in to keep things grounded, especially for those of us who don't live in developer land. So let's get into it. So Rob, Karpathy describes vibe coding like it's this mind-blowing new way to build software. You describe what you want, make a few tweaks, and AI builds it. But you're saying we've kind of been doing that all along?
That's a great question, Chelene. Thank you. This one's pretty exciting. Like, we are in an interesting time. Like, things are changing on a daily basis, and we're kind of meeting two things at the same time. One is we've got these new technologies that are, let's just use this example, for example, vibe coding. So you go in, you basically type what you want, and the machine spits out a whole bunch of code, and then you actually have a program that you can use. Now, on the revolutionary side, like, that's amazing, right? The fact that you can just simply sit there, say what you want, and get a program out the backside. It's like we've been pushing towards this moment since the 40s, right? Like, or since the dawn of time. The fact that we can have a machine do the things that we wanted to do. So I don't want to harsh that buzz of that idea. What I do want to talk about is what we have been doing for a really long time is obviously creating software. Mm-hmm. And there's whole processes that we have around these things. And what's interesting is that this notion of vibe coding is obscuring what the process is that we've been doing all of this time. And it's taking the place of those processes. So I'm trying to get to the point where we're talking about what it is that we're doing, and then we add the AI part to the side of it. So what are we doing? Given that I've been working in software for the past 30 years, the role that Karpathy is talking about is really the product manager role. And there's a few of those different roles in there. There's a technical product manager, et cetera. It's basically the person that sits directly in between the customer and the developers. And their job is to talk to the customers, talk to the business, find out what it is that they're doing, and then translate that into requirements for the developers. Mm-hmm. So anytime that you're doing vibe coding, you are exactly and only doing the job of a product manager. And the reason I'm bristling against these namings is because it robs us of the ability to know that. I have talked to everybody on the planet about vibe coding and so forth. No one has ever talked about product management. But that is exactly what you are doing. You are specifying requirements and changes and the things that you like to do. Now, I don't want to place a lot of blame on Karpathy here, because there's something magical about the fact that you just go in and you're getting software out the backside. And where I think his real meaning came from is the fact that you get the feel for what the machine is doing. And sometimes it leads you in one direction, and sometimes it leads you in another. And sometimes you just have to like kind of let it lead you wherever it wants to go. And that's where I truly think that the vibe notion came from. But again, everyone's starting to use this term to simply mean when you're sitting in front of a computer and asking it questions and getting software out the back. And I think that's robbing us of the understanding, because I can't go on the internet right now and search, like, I can search vibe coding, but I get 50,000 videos of people just literally typing stuff in a thing and getting a program out. Like, that's not interesting or useful. I, in fact, know product managers that have heard of vibe coding had literally no idea of the fact that that was their job. Like, that is literally their day to day. If you remove the fact that there are developers on this side of the line and just have like an opaque interface and you don't know what's on this other side, to a standard everyday product manager, what's going on over there, whether it's computer or human, is exactly still the same thing. You have the same problems going on. You have to define the requirements. You get back things that may or may not work. You may ask for a change and you may break something else. So like, all of the things that we have there. And now, hopefully, now that you know that there's this translation between vibe coding and product management, you can now go online and you can say, well, what are the things that product managers do? And you see that there's years, decades of experience that these folks have, again, in terms of like, how do you manage priority backlog? How do you think about like which features to add? How do you know when you're done? And again, that's what I'm trying to get at with this conversation that we're having today is we should absolutely lean into the fact that this is revolutionary. This is beyond belief, the fact that we have machines that are doing these things and doing them about as well as a junior developer would do. But again, I think that by giving it a new name, we're completely robbing the ability for us to look at the people who've been doing this job for decades and leverage that experience. And in fact, even if you go to the LLM and talk to them about vibe coding, I don't even think that they've made the association of the fact that these two things are the same thing. So again, using the real names of these things, I think are super important, especially people who are trying to start off in these areas.
Yeah, I think so. I think AI, partnering with AI, building a relationship with AI, utilizing the machine just makes the feedback loop faster. For me, it makes things quicker. It also makes me dig deeper in my own thoughts, in my own mind, in my own work. And it again, like you said, it brings me down paths that maybe were in the back of my mind or the side, but I hadn't really brought to the forefront. So it's really like the process is the same. Everything's just sort of accelerated and sometimes, goes a little deeper. And this just isn't about coding, right? You've seen this pattern kind of everywhere, like old skills getting new names. So let's walk the audience through some other examples just so they're aware of maybe some of the new names and what they actually translate to.
Sure. So if you've been working with LLMs for the past, 3 years now, you've definitely heard about prompt engineering.
Yes.
And I think there's one side of me that thinks that that's gatekeeping, right? By giving it a name with engineering in it, that's you're like, ooh, that's something I can't go over there. And I think for a lot of other people, it has almost the exact opposite effect, which is like, engineering, well, there's nothing to that. I can do what those engineers are doing.
Right.
And the problem is that prompt engineering, there's no engineering in it. If you think about what engineering does, the way that I always think of engineering is I think of like a building or a bridge or something like that, construction. And what an engineer does, their job is to say, okay, I have this tall of a building that needs this load and it has this wind shear force. Like, what type of concrete do I need to use? At what rate does it need to cure? What type of rebar do I use? At what spacing? Like, there are books that have formulas that literally just say, for these conditions, do these things. That's what engineering is. I don't want to say it's just rote things, but you're looking at a problem and you're systematically going through them using known processes to do it. And prompt engineering really isn't that. If you really think about what prompt engineering is, it's what we used to call communication. Like when you're talking to two people, you're just simply like presenting context to that thing. You're asking a question and you're getting back a response and you're continuing a conversation. And that's really all prompt engineering is. If you look at all of these top 50 prompt engineering tips, you look at all of them, they're just like questions and they're just like some things that you're just like, yeah, that's like how you talk to people. Or they're things like, prompt engineering tips are like, well, make sure you put your context in there. It's like, well, of course, because as always say in all of our discussions we've had, even like last week about context engineering, like if you don't tell it who you are, then like how can it continue that conversation, give you a good response? So prompt engineering is one, again, just look at it as nothing more than communication. What is effective communication with somebody you don't know or somebody that doesn't know you? That's prompt engineering. Last week, we talked about context engineering. Again, except for if you're talking about a very specific use case where you're actually talking about engineers who are sitting down and contemplating the different ways of taking context and working through it such that you get that information into the LLM. The rest of context engineering is just really, how do you frame a problem? Like, how do you set up a situation in which the person on the other side understands where you're coming from and they understand what you need back? Again, to me, prompt engineering and context engineering, they're two sides of the same coin and they're both communication.
Right. No. Yeah, I hear that. I hear that and I feel that, right? Because from my perspective, it's always like, and some of the things I see, right? Like consultative selling, right? We've been doing that for decades, right?
Yeah.
It's basically a tailored pitch and you go in and you basically ask qualifying questions and you get information from a client. You're prompt engineering, you're adding context, right? Engineering. So it's not about being behind when we hear these new terms, right? Or like out of the loop. It's about recognizing what you already know. But now you have an opportunity to partner with AI and accelerate the process and level up the outcome is like
Absolutely.
what I get from my perspective and my own experience in using AI. So some might say, okay, well, the new labels, like they get people excited. You're like, ooh, I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I heard like vibe, coding, I was like, ooh, what's that? That sounds cool. But what are we losing? And you kind of touched on this a little bit. We're losing something when we repackage old skills like this. So maybe walk us through that kind of back end thinking.
Absolutely. And I would say almost kind of two sides to this, which is every time you hear a new term, like because my job has always been a communicator in the middle, it is really hard when you go to a new meeting and you come up with a new term and then you have to level set everybody and explain it to everybody. It is much easier to go into a meeting with new people, new customers, new clients, and talk about a thing that they know and potentially tell them how this other thing you're trying to talk about is different. So I would say that, which is again, think about like the communication challenges with people around you. And then I'll say the other thing, which you just said, which is like new names are sexier, they're cool, like it sounds like we're doing something new and neat. But again, I would just say like be cautious against that because again, you lose the important side, we'll talk about in a second, in that kind of excitement thing. So the problems are is I just can't go on Google with any type of history and look up what vibe coding is because there's no history there. Like there's no meaning. And again, I've not seen anywhere where people talk about the fact that vibe coding is just product management, like kind of engineering, technical product management, and those kind of things. And as soon as you tell somebody that, and I've already done this, people are just like, oh, that's what everyone's talking about. I'm like, yeah, that's what everyone's talking about. So, and as soon as you have a parallel, a path that you can follow, then all of a sudden now, not only is it searchable, not only can you find experts in those fields, not only can you leverage all of that great insight that's been going through there, you just don't end up going down wrong paths. Like we've already made all of these mistakes. We've been doing product management for decades now. Like there is so much to be learned. And again, what's been fascinating to me is I've worked with friends as they're starting into this whole new world of machine plus man working on tools. And I've done my little tests and I don't want to say that I'm doing anything exhaustive here, but there's been some folks that I haven't told what it is and they vibe code away and they end up with one experience. And then I go to other people who are starting down that path and I'm like, well, what you're doing is what a product manager does. You're taking requirements and I start to again give these terms, which we've used all the time. They're like, oh, like that's what my product manager does. And there's all this synergy and this understanding that comes from it again versus the other side, which is vibe coding. You're like, oh, I don't know what that is. And then you just kind of walk away. So like, which would you rather have is like that, like, oh, neat new thing. I don't know. Or like, oh, I now understand it. I understand where this fits in. Like, this is what these people do. This is how this role works. And then I would almost say one thing more, which is as vibe coding becomes more and more prevalent, like we're gonna have all the same problems that we had before, which is again like testing and like all these things we've learned, but now it's accelerated. Do you want to be in a world where not only are you trying to figure out this thing that's already known and discovered and deal with its new implications, or would you rather start from a place where you leverage all of this knowledge and like move it forward? And again, I would rather do the latter. I would rather start with a position of knowledge and like try to move than just be like, I don't know what this is. Let's try to figure it out.
That's you explaining in that way. I had like an aha moment for sure. And it just brought me back to like the comfort, right? Like change is hard enough for most people, but having a comfort in something when you're going through change is very comforting.
It is.
For example, the thing that just popped into my head when you were talking, it's like going from our traditional cars, driving with gas, filling it up, and then going electric. Like, what if the cars people came out and said, we have this new mode of transportation, right? And like positioned it as like, not even the word car was in there. And people would be like, wait, what? It would be scary. Do I have to learn how to drive it different? Right. But instead it's like, hey, it's some cool new technology, right?
Smacked on a car.
Like that, but giving the comfort there. And it it made me just have that aha moment. Like, we should really, and the leaders in this industry should be really taking that comfort, right? Remembering the comfort of what we already know that grounds us as humans.
Yeah.
And then being excited to leverage the technology of the machine and partner with it to make ourselves better, stronger, faster versions of ourselves, right?
Very much.
Yeah. So this rebranding, so is it intentional? Is someone profiting from the confusion, or do you think it's just these really super smart people just aren't being grounded? I don't know.
So that's a great question. What's so fascinating about now is that this stuff is moving so fast. To think that there's some malicious plan behind it, just like it's happening too fast in too many different places at the same time in the same way. So I would love there to be a conspiracy theory here, but nope, there is not. There's no one profiting from these ideas. I think that a lot of folks are just getting really, again, from when I first saw Karpathy mention this, I was at the same position at the same time doing the same things. And there is something, if you haven't built your first app yet via, again, just talking to the machine and getting it to come out, and especially if you've never ever been in the driver's seat before as like a product manager or somebody doing that, it is electrifying to have that power. And it's a little intoxicating. So I would just say this is a case where you have an extremely well-known and extremely well-respected individual who just fired this off on Twitter, and it like turned into a thing. And I would almost say everyone else needs caution against, I don't want to use the word demigod and like these things, but people do worship all these tech people right now. And it's a little scary.
Yeah.
Like, they're just people, and they make mistakes and they do things and like all this. And I think we just need to tone it down a little bit as we're doing this. So no, there's no great conspiracy theory on this. I don't think it was of any malicious intent. I think if anything, it's super positive intent where, again, once you get this experience, you're just like, holy cow, this is a new way of doing it. And again, these are by people who have done this before. So like they're coming from with the knowledge over them. And I think that we all forget, and I think we really all need to be cautious. And it's really the fundamental premise of this whole conversation that we're doing, the series of conversations, is I think we have to carry everyone along with us. We have to realize that there are people that are afraid of these technologies and are unfamiliar with these technologies and maybe scared of them and at the wrong time in their career to like deal with the fact that there's this much change. And I think we need to be more, huggable. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, let's sit down with these things. Like, rather than come up with a new term, let's be like we're trying to do here, which is like, look, this is a thing we've had before. It's super exciting the way it's changing. But in this case, it's the same thing. Here's what it is. It's product management. If you've never done it before, you got to try it. It's amazing, because normally doing it the other way is a really excruciating process where you specify lists of things and you give it to people, and in months later they give it back to you and it's not what you asked for. And now you can do it basically in real time.
Yeah, I can relate to that just from a perspective. I'm not a plumber, Rob, and I think you know this about me. But I did have a situation with one of my toilets upstairs the other day. It was running water and leaking down the wall into the second story. And it was late at night and I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. So I called on one of my dudes and I took a picture of it. And I said, what the hell's going on here? And it was just the little lever. And it walked me through on how to fix it and how to stop the filling from happening and the water from leaking down. And that probably saved me a couple $100 and a heart attack, right? Yep. But I was so excited about that I did this and I fixed it within minutes that I told like my inner circle.
That's amazing.
And it's that kind of excitement. I didn't scare them into, I opened the door and a strange man came in, and you know what I mean? It was just like the technology helped me. And that's invaluable for me. So love the point that you said we all need to we get excited about the technology, those of us that use this daily, because every single day I find a new path forward to make me better by utilizing and partnering with my dudes and my AI. But it's then communicating, how do we communicate that to the people that are more weary or scared, right? So I think that that's such great advice for everyone. So what's the smarter way forward? What do we do with all this? If Andrej was listening now, what would we say to him and to the others that are leading the way and have the biggest voices? And for those of us and for our listeners that are just, kind of...
Those are great questions. I think that the way that I approach every meeting that I go to is I try to meet everybody halfway. Is I try to understand what my audience needs and what are the things that are doing. And right now, especially in the time that we're in, we need to be much more cognizant of the fact that people are freaking out. This stuff is moving pretty fast.
Yeah.
People are in denial about what happened, with all these different technologies that are happening. And I think we need to come from a place of more understanding.
Mhm.
Again, there's no blame to be had here. Like, this is an extremely exciting time. And
Yeah.
it's like, but I think given how quickly information spreads on the internet now, I think just in general, we would all do really well by just taking an extra breath before we do some of these things. I really, so I'll just say this, and I've said this a few times, and I really want to drive this home. It's not ever really happened where the general population is involved in a research and development phase. This is really the first time I think mankind in general has been on the front lines, 50-yard line, front row seats for a full-on research and development cycle. I've been doing this my whole career, and it's exhilarating and exciting. You have ups, you have downs, and you want to tell the world about all this stuff that you're doing. But like, we're in a position now where this is, again, some scary stuff. Like, we really need to think about, when we broadcast this stuff to the world, what the impact of those things have on people's lives, on the stock market, on like all this stuff. And, again, there's no blame to be had on anyone's side here, but we need to realize that things like Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and so forth, they're global platforms on people. Like, what's interesting is my partner is Vietnamese and has a strong connection back to the Vietnamese community back in Vietnam. And it is so fascinating to hear how things that we're doing here get filtered through a world away and what they come back meaning in a different culture. And again, I don't think that all of the people who have the followers on the planet really truly recognize and understand the power that they have on other people. And I think we need to take a lot more care and caution. And that's what I would advocate for. Again, we need the exuberance and the excitement because we're in that. And I'm not saying we shouldn't invite people into this time. Like, this is important for us to do this. Again, this is the first time we've, as mankind, created something this amazing. As I said, I think literally in our first podcast, like, this is the Manhattan Project, but on the front page every single day.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing and a bad thing. And I would say things like this vibe coding thing, where people like literally have no idea what it is. And again, I encourage you after this, literally search vibe coding and watch what people are doing. And all they're doing is just typing in, they get an app and they're just like, I can deploy it and make money. And it's like, that's not what we're doing right here. Like, we're literally showing you that machines are going to potentially take jobs from people and accelerate things in ways that we've never considered before. Like, this is not take it, monetize it, run with it. This is like, hey, you're in the middle of a research and development process. We don't know the implications of these things downstream. Like, let's take a breath and like think about these things.
Right. I agree. And I think this is what we keep coming back to. And I know we talk about this a lot. It's like, how can I apply what I already know? And in this faster AI augmented world, right, that gives me comfort because I know what my strengths are. I know what my opportunities are. And how do I partner? Like, we just say, get started, start using AI and use it in a way that's comfortable for you. Watch how, just have a conversation with it, right? And give it context and how, we keep coming back to it. AI doesn't replace you. It reveals your strengths, but it goes deeper. It's not magic. It sometimes looks like that and feels like that in the media, but it's momentum, right? And it makes you, in my opinion, in my situation, it makes me a better, stronger, faster version of me, right? So I think you're right. There's so many good reality checks in this episode. One, just with the buzzwords, and two, with, going back to what we know as humans and what we're good at and how AI really complements that. So I love to give a challenge of the week or just for something for our listeners to think of. So pick one AI buzzword, what Rob just said, go check out vibe coding, read what's out there in the media, and then go back to what Rob really explained it and be like, wow, vibe coder, AI native strategists. And then ask yourself, what real skill is this actually built on? Because as we know, LLMs, the machines are all built on historical data and information. So what real skill is this actually built on? And do I already know how to do it? Spoiler alert, you probably do, right? You're not behind. You're not obsolete. You're just being reintroduced to the power of your own experience, which then is amplified by AI, which to me is a gift and a thing that I love. So if you haven't started that relationship or engaging with AI, do it today and feel comfort in it. And it's a safe place. So stay curious, stay grounded, and remember, your skills aren't obsolete. They're just about to be supercharged by partnering with AI. So thank you for continuing the conversation. And Rob, thank you for the good reality check. I needed it, and I think we all did. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you,
Bye-bye,
Chelene.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.